For many years, I believed poverty meant one thing: not having money. But as I grew older, as I watched people closely, as I lived long enough to see patterns repeat themselves, I realized something uncomfortable. Poverty is not cheap. Poverty is expensive. It is expensive in ways that numbers cannot calculate. It is expensive in time, in health, in dignity, in relationships, and in missed chances that never come back. I am not saying this as an insult. I am saying this as an observation, because I have seen very good people, hardworking people, honest people, sink deeper and deeper into lack, not because they were lazy, but because poverty quietly trained them how to survive, and survival itself became their prison. What I am about to say is not meant to shame anyone. It is meant to explain something many people feel but cannot name. Part 1. What poverty taught me to see. I have lived long enough to notice this. Poverty does not usually destroy people suddenly. It drains them slowly. I have watched people who were poor make decisions that made sense in the moment, but punished them later. And I have watched people who had money make decisions that looked foolish at first, but protected them for years. That is where my conclusions came from. Not from books. Not from seminars. From watching life repeat itself. Part 2. Poverty creates urgency, and urgency is expensive. One thing poverty does very well is this. It creates permanent urgency. When you don't have money, everything feels like an emergency. You don't plan, you react. You don't prepare, you patch. You don't invest, you escape. I have seen this many times. I watched a man who could barely afford rent buy the cheapest shoes every few months because they were affordable. Those shoes kept tearing. Every time, he paid again. Later, another man bought one expensive, solid pair. It hurt him once, but then he forgot about shoes for years. That is when it hit me. Being poor forces you to buy cheap, and cheap keeps charging interest. 3. The cost of cheap food, cheap fixes, cheap decisions. I have watched families buy the cheapest food possible, not because they were careless, but because they were desperate. Later, I watched hospital bills eat entire savings. I watched medication become permanent. I watched strength disappear early. Cheap today became expensive tomorrow. I saw people ignore small repairs, roofs, medical checkups, skills, education, because money is tight. Years later, the damage was massive. Suddenly, the cost was 10 times higher. That taught me something painful. Poverty delays solutions until solutions become disasters. Part 4. Poverty mentality, the invisible trap. I need to say this carefully. Poverty mentality is not stupidity. It is conditioning. When you live without margin, your mind learns to ask only one question. How do I get relief today? Not, how do I reduce this problem permanently? I have observed people avoid learning new skills because learning costs money or time. I have seen people avoid books because books don't feel urgent. I have seen people mock planning as for rich people. Yet those same people remained trapped year after year, not because they were bad, but because poverty trained them to survive, not to build. Part 5. How emotional spending deepens poverty. Another thing I observed deeply shocked me. When people are poor, pleasure becomes medicine. I saw people who had nothing spend little money on expensive distractions, alcohol, flashy items, unnecessary treats, not because they were reckless, but because pain demanded relief. For a moment, they felt human again. But relief has no memory. It leaves nothing behind. The rich, on the other hand, and I say this without admiration or hatred, delay relief. They endure boredom. They endure discomfort. That difference compounds. Part 6. What I noticed about the rich. I am not praising rich people. I am simply stating what I observed. Rich people pay more upfront. Think in systems. Buy time, not things. Fix problems before they scream. Invest during calm moments. Poor people pay less today and more tomorrow. Think in emergencies. Sacrifice tomorrow for today. Fix problems only when pain arrives. Both think logically, but under different pressures. Part 7. The saddest thing I learned. This may be the hardest truth I learned to accept. Poverty reproduces itself. Children observe parents reacting instead of planning. Young people copy habits they don't understand yet. Cycles repeat, not because of fate, but because of learned behavior. I have seen young people inherit bills, not money. Stress, not skills. Fear, not freedom. Not because their parents were cruel, but because they were exhausted. Part 8. Why I say poverty is expensive. I say poverty is expensive because it steals time. It destroys health. It limits thinking. It punishes mistakes harshly. It charges interest on every delay. And worst of all, it convinces you that this is normal life. Part 9. The quiet way out. No shouting, no hype. I have learned that escaping poverty mentality does not start with money. It starts with thinking long-term, paying once instead of repeatedly, investing in skills before desperation, learning to sit with discomfort, choosing progress over relief. No miracles, no fantasies, just deliberate thinking. I am not speaking as someone above anyone. I am speaking as someone who watched life closely and learned painfully. If you are poor today, this is not a condemnation. It is a diagnosis, and diagnoses are meant to heal. Poverty is expensive, but awareness is free. Once you see the cost, you begin to choose differently, slowly, quietly, deliberately, and that is where real change begins. If this message spoke to you, sit with it. Think about it. Question your habits, not your worth. And if you believe someone else needs to hear this, share it with them. Not to shame them, but to give them vision.